Article 210.6d addresses branch circuits over 600 volts. This section mandates that circuits exceeding 600 volts must comply with Article 710. Article 710 provides regulations for equipment used at over 600 volts. These high-voltage installations must be permanent, enclosed in grounded metal enclosures, and connected using permanent wiring methods like raceways, conduits, or cables. The National Electrical Code prohibits the use of cord and plug connections for high-intensity discharge lighting ballasts operating over 480 volts. This prohibition stems from the fact that such ballasts are classified as equipment operating at over 600 volts. Cord and plug connections do not satisfy the requirement for permanent installations and lack the necessary safeguards for circuits exceeding 600 volts. Hardwired connections, utilizing methods like conduit, raceways, or cables, are permissible for high-intensity discharge lighting ballasts operating over 480 volts. These methods establish a permanent installation and provide the required protection for circuits exceeding 600 volts. In summary, utilizing cord and plug connections for high-intensity discharge lighting with 480-volt ballast taps constitutes a code violation under Article 210.6d. Adherence to permanent wiring methods such as conduit, raceways, or cables is essential for compliant and safe installations. Therefore, to reiterate, it is a code violation to connect high bay lighting, specifically high-intensity discharge lighting, inside a warehouse using the 480-volt ballast taps when employing cord and plug connections, referencing Article 210.6d of the National Electrical Code. However, it is permissible to connect these lights using permanent wiring methods like conduit, raceways, or cables, ensuring compliance with the code and prioritizing safety. This distinction is crucial for electrical installations in warehouses and similar settings. The key point here is the voltage level. Anything over 600 volts necessitates strict adherence to Article 710, emphasizing permanent and secure wiring methods. The use of flexible cords and plugs is not an acceptable method for these higher voltage applications due to safety concerns and the code requirements for permanent installations. The code prioritizes the safety of personnel and the integrity of the electrical system. The use of proper wiring methods, such as conduit or cable, ensures that the high-voltage circuits are adequately protected from physical damage, environmental factors, and accidental contact. Moreover, these methods provide a reliable grounding path, which is crucial for safety in case of a fault. Remember that the National Electrical Code is a comprehensive set of standards designed to minimize electrical hazards and ensure safe installations. It is essential for electricians, contractors, and building owners to be familiar with and adhere to these regulations to prevent accidents and ensure compliance. When dealing with high-voltage systems such as 480-volt high-intensity discharge lighting, the importance of following the code cannot be overstated. Understanding the specific requirements for these types of installations and employing appropriate wiring methods are critical for maintaining a safe and compliant electrical system. The code dictates that equipment operating over 600 volts must be installed in a permanent manner, enclosed in grounded metal enclosures, and connected by permanent wiring methods. This approach minimizes the risk of electrical shock, fire, and other hazards associated with high-voltage systems. In addition to the code requirements, it is important to consider industry best practices when installing high-intensity discharge lighting. This includes using properly rated components, ensuring adequate ventilation for ballasts, and providing appropriate overcurrent protection for the circuits. Regular inspections and maintenance are also essential for maintaining the safety and reliability of these systems. By following the code, implementing best practices, and staying informed about the latest industry standards, you can ensure that high-intensity discharge lighting installations are safe, compliant, and efficient. Remember that electrical safety is paramount, and adhering to the code is the foundation for creating a safe electrical environment. In this case, the location of the installation, being in Salt Lake City, Utah, does not change the applicability of the National Electrical Code. The NEC is widely adopted across the United States, and its requirements apply regardless of the specific location. However, it is important to check with local authorities to ensure that there are no additional local codes or amendments that may affect the installation. Local jurisdictions may have specific requirements that supplement the NEC, such as requiring permits, inspections, or specific types of equipment. Therefore, it is always advisable to consult with the local electrical inspector or building department to confirm that the installation meets all applicable requirements. It is important to differentiate between the branch circuit voltage and the voltage at the ballast tap. Even if the branch circuit is 480 volts, the ballast tap may provide a voltage exceeding 600 volts within the lighting fixture itself. This is why the code considers the voltage at the ballast tap when determining the applicable requirements. If the ballast tap provides a voltage over 600 volts, then Article 710 applies, regardless of the branch circuit voltage. This distinction is crucial for understanding the code requirements and ensuring that the installation is safe and compliant. When working with high-intensity discharge lighting, it is also important to be aware of the potential hazards associated with these fixtures. High-intensity discharge lamps operate at high temperatures and pressures, and they can pose a risk of explosion if they are damaged or improperly handled. Therefore, it is essential to follow the manufacturer's instructions for handling, installing, and maintaining these lamps. Additionally, high-intensity discharge lamps contain mercury, which is a hazardous substance. It is important to dispose of these lamps properly to prevent environmental contamination. Many jurisdictions have specific regulations for the disposal of mercury-containing lamps, so it is essential to check with local authorities for guidance. Always disconnect the power before working on any electrical equipment, including high-intensity discharge lighting fixtures. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses, to protect yourself from electrical shock, burns, and other hazards. If you are not qualified to work on electrical equipment, hire a licensed electrician to perform the work. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it is important to take the necessary precautions to protect yourself and others. The correct interpretation and application of electrical codes is crucial for ensuring the safety and functionality of electrical systems. It is important for electricians and other professionals in the electrical industry to stay up to date on the latest code changes and interpretations. Continuing education courses, industry publications, and online resources can help you stay informed and knowledgeable about the National Electrical Code. Additionally, it is helpful to participate in industry events and network with other professionals to share knowledge and experiences. By continuously learning and improving your understanding of the code, you can provide your clients with safe, reliable, and code-compliant electrical installations. In conclusion, when installing high-intensity discharge lighting with 480-volt ballast taps, it is essential to understand and comply with the requirements of Article 210.6d and Article 710 of the National Electrical Code. Cord and plug connections are not permitted for these installations, and permanent wiring methods such as conduit, raceways, or cables must be used. By following the code, implementing best practices, and staying informed about the latest industry standards, you can ensure that high-intensity discharge lighting installations are safe, compliant, and efficient. When evaluating whether a specific wiring method is acceptable, consider the following factors. Firstly, the wiring method must be suitable for the voltage and current levels involved. Secondly, the wiring method must provide adequate protection against physical damage and environmental factors. Thirdly, the wiring method must be approved for the specific application and location. In the case of high-intensity discharge lighting with 480-volt ballast taps, cord and plug connections typically do not meet these criteria because they are not considered permanent wiring methods and do not provide adequate protection for circuits exceeding 600 volts. On the other hand, conduit, raceways, and cables are generally considered acceptable wiring methods because they are permanent, provide adequate protection, and are approved for use in a variety of applications. It is important to select the appropriate type and size of conduit, raceway, or cable for the specific installation based on the voltage, current, and environmental conditions. Additionally, the wiring method must be properly installed and supported to ensure its long-term reliability and safety. When installing conduit, raceways, or cables, be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions and the requirements of the National Electrical Code. This includes using the correct fittings, connectors, and supports, and ensuring that the wiring method is properly grounded. Improperly installed wiring methods can pose a risk of electrical shock, fire, and other hazards. Therefore, it is essential to take the time to install these systems correctly and to inspect them regularly to ensure their continued safety and reliability. The requirements outlined in Article 710 of the National Electrical Code are designed to minimize the risk of electrical hazards associated with equipment operating at over 600 volts. These requirements address various aspects of the installation, including wiring methods, grounding, overcurrent protection, and equipment enclosures. By complying with these requirements, you can help ensure that high-voltage equipment is installed safely and reliably. In addition to the specific requirements of Article 710, it is important to follow general electrical safety practices when working with high-voltage equipment. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment such as gloves and safety glasses, and using insulated tools. Never work on energized equipment unless you are specifically trained and authorized to do so. Always disconnect the power before performing any maintenance or repairs on high-voltage equipment. High-voltage electricity can be extremely dangerous, and it is essential to take the necessary precautions to protect yourself and others from electrical shock, burns, and other hazards. Remember that electrical safety is a shared responsibility, and everyone who works with or around electrical equipment should be aware of the potential hazards and how to mitigate them. By working together to promote electrical safety, we can help prevent accidents and create a safer working environment. It is also important to consider the energy efficiency of high-intensity discharge lighting systems. High-intensity discharge lamps are generally more energy efficient than incandescent lamps, but they can still consume a significant amount of energy. When selecting high-intensity discharge lighting fixtures, look for models that are energy efficient and that have a long lifespan. Additionally, consider using lighting controls, such as occupancy sensors and dimmers, to reduce energy consumption when the lights are not needed. By implementing energy-efficient lighting practices, you can reduce your energy costs and minimize your environmental impact. When retrofitting existing lighting systems with high-intensity discharge lighting, it is important to evaluate the existing wiring and electrical infrastructure to ensure that it is adequate for the new fixtures. In some cases, it may be necessary to upgrade the wiring, overcurrent protection, or other components to accommodate the increased power requirements of the high-intensity discharge lamps. Failure to properly evaluate and upgrade the existing electrical system can result in overloading circuits, overheating wires, and other hazards. Therefore, it is essential to consult with a qualified electrician to determine the appropriate upgrades for your specific situation. It is essential to consult with the authority having jurisdiction, or OD, for clarification on any code requirements that are unclear or ambiguous. The AHA is the local electrical inspector or building department official who is responsible for enforcing the National Electrical Code in your area. The AHA can provide guidance on specific code interpretations and can help you ensure that your installation is compliant. Do not hesitate to contact the AHA if you have any questions or concerns about the code. They are there to help you understand and comply with the code, and they can prevent costly mistakes and delays. Moreover, the AHA can often provide valuable insights and recommendations based on their experience with similar installations in your area. They may be aware of local conditions or issues that could affect the performance or safety of your installation. Therefore, consulting with the AHA is always a good practice, especially when dealing with complex or unusual electrical installations. In addition to consulting with the AHA, it is also helpful to participate in industry training programs and attend electrical code seminars. These events can provide you with valuable information on the latest code changes and interpretations, as well as best practices for electrical installations. By staying up to date on the code and industry standards, you can ensure that you are providing your clients with the highest quality and safest electrical services. In summary, installing high-intensity discharge lighting with 480-volt ballast taps requires careful attention to the requirements of the National Electrical Code, particularly Article 210.6d and Article 710. Cord and plug connections are not permitted for these installations, and permanent wiring methods such as conduit, raceways, or cables must be used. By following the code, implementing best practices, and staying informed about the latest industry standards, you can ensure that high-intensity discharge lighting installations are safe, compliant, and efficient.